Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here and you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And we're gonna do a painting tutorial today. So today we're gonna paint this lovely summertime sunset themed painting to close out the season. Because this will be the last painting that I upload for summer, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because what day is today? Oh yeah, this is probably gonna go up in September. Anyways, we'll do more paintings in the autumn. We've almost hit 1,000 subscribers. I know it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's a lot to me. So thank you guys so much for continuing to watch and subscribe and help grow the channel. And I will do my part to also help grow the channel by making more videos in the future. I'm gonna try to upload more. So yeah. Okay. And now let's get to the painting tutorial. Okay, so before we start painting, you're gonna need your supplies. I'm painting on a regular 16 by 20 canvas today, but you can use whatever you like, as usual. You'll need something to paint on and some paint, so I'm using my paint tray. You'll need some brushes. I'm just using cheap brushes, a jar of water, and some paper towels. Okay, so to start, we're gonna start our background with a pale yellow. And I forgot to film myself mixing this color. And also, we're using our biggest brush. But you're just gonna mix a little bit of yellow in with your white, and you're gonna cover just that bottom middle portion. Next, you're gonna wanna add a little bit of that magenta into your yellow, and you wanna make a pale orange color, because what we're gonna do is have this yellow slowly turn into like a pink, and then purple and blue. So we want it to gradually turn into this orange. And we're just gonna keep adding a little bit more pink to that color as we go up the canvas. And you wanna keep this paint nice and wet so that you can easily blend it. If you notice it's starting to dry out, you wanna keep adding more water to it. And I'm just gonna keep adding more and more of that pink. So again, it gets gradually pinker as it goes up the canvas. And you might notice that at the bottom I didn't bother with getting the paint all the way to the edges, because I know that I'm going to put some hills there later, so I don't have to waste the paint going all the way to the edges, but you absolutely can cover the entire canvas if you want. So now I'm just gonna gradually turn this more of a purple color by adding a little bit of blue, maybe a little bit more white to this color. And again, you want to really blend, keep the paint nice and wet. You can keep re-wetting your brush with just some water if you need to get that paint to blend together more, and just the more you brush it together, the more those colors will kind of blend together. And don't be afraid to pull the purple down into the pink and maybe even to the yellow a little. It gives you kind of a slightly muddier, like less bright color palette. So if you're going for more of a dull pastel-y look, but you can keep this super bright and vibrant too if you want. Again, if you want those colors to blend, you just gotta keep working that paint together, keep the brush wet. And now we're going to gradually move into blue. So now we're going to mix some blue and white and blend that the same way we've been blending before. And I'm not really cleaning my brush too much between these colors, because it's okay for these colors to mix together. And this next color, this blue, we're gonna just bring this all the way up to the top of the canvas, and again, keep on blending it down until you get that blend as smooth as you want it. And you can go a little bit more blue, or like slightly darker, more saturated blue up towards the top if you want, just by adding a little bit more blue into your paint mix. Okay, so next we're gonna do our clouds. So I'm gonna keep using the same pile of paint I was using for the sky, and I'm just gonna make it slightly more grayish. So it's still gonna be like a purpley blue color, but a grayish purpley blue. So I'm still adding a little bit more of that blue and pink into that mixture, but also adding a little bit of black now. And then you don't want it to be too dark. So, you know, if it gets a little too dark, add a little white to it. And you could just play around with this color until you get something that is a little bit darker and a little bit grayer than your sky color, basically. And you can place your clouds wherever you want. I'm just doing mine up in that top right corner area. And I did speed this part up a bit because it's kind of boring, but basically you're just gonna pounce the paint on in the shape you want. And then I use my finger to kind of go back over and buff it to kind of soften the edges to give it that cotton candy fluffy cloud look. But you don't have to do that. If you don't want to get your fingers dirty, you could do that with a paper towel, or you could just leave them without the pouncing with your fingers and they'll look just fine. Also, something I like to do is add a little bit of those colors from the sky back into the clouds. They're not all just one color, so you can add a little bit more of, like you can see I'm doing purple here. You could put a little bit of blue into your clouds just so they don't look flat. So the more colors that you have from the rest of the sky, almost like reflecting in the clouds, the more natural and the more three-dimensional they'll look. So I like to do that. And then I also like to go over just kind of the edges or the rim of the clouds with a lighter color. So now I'm adding white, and you'll see I'm not really cleaning my brush off, so it's okay if that white doesn't come out pure white. You could just, with your dirty brush, just go right into the white, put in some highlights, and again, just kind of keep fluffing your clouds and using just variations of your same mixture, and then go with white or a lighter color around the top, so you can add little baby clouds here and there. And if it doesn't look quite bright enough, you can go back and add a second layer of that white to brighten it even more. Or if they don't look dark enough, you can go back and add more colors into your clouds, and you'll see that I just kind of keep fussing with them, adding in more blues, more purples, and going back in with white and brightening it up. You'll notice that sometimes when the paint starts to dry, it'll dry a little darker, so you might want to go in and brighten up your colors. And just do this until you're happy with how your clouds look. And you can do your clouds any shape you like. You can have fun with it. You can do funny shapes in your clouds. You could do more clouds or less clouds, whatever you want for your painting. Okay, now switching to a larger brush, add black to that cloud color, maybe a little bit of white, and make a dark gray. And we're gonna add our hills or mountains, and you can do these whatever shape you like. So I'm just gonna sketch in a basic shape for my little hills and mountains, and you'll notice that I'm gonna go back over and change the shape. So don't worry about getting this right the first time, because you can keep adjusting them as you go. So I just drew them out, I'm gonna fill them in, and then as I'm filling them in, I can go in and change the shape of them. I can add more little bumps or rocks, I can flatten them out. I can make adjustments as I go until I get them however I like. I do know that I wanna put some trees up there, so I'm kind of making a little bit more room for that. So if you have an idea of some, like if you want to put like a building up there, or you want to put a certain amount of trees or something, you can adjust. And now I'm going to go ahead and add trees to mine. And these trees are kind of like those trees that you see like in an African safari, where I'm going to do them where they have like kind of the flat like leaves, almost like bonsai tree shapes as well, I guess. This painting is actually very loosely based off The Lion King. There was actually a mural that I saw at the Disney store. Gosh, it's not there anymore. But like a couple years ago, I think. And if I can find the photo of my reference, I'll put it in here so you can see the painting that inspired this painting, basically. But yeah, so I'm going in and just adding these trees, and you can draw your trees however you like. You don't have to do this style. I just thought it looked pretty. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I did switch to a smaller brush for the trees. But you can use whatever brush you feel comfortable with. I usually basically use bigger brushes for larger areas, smaller brushes for smaller details. And if you feel nervous about drawing trees, you can always practice this before you do it on your painting, so you can get like a spare piece of paper or something spare to paint on and practice painting trees until you feel comfortable, and then go ahead and do it on your canvas. And I'm just gonna do another tree on the other side, and I have mine sort of leaning in, creating like almost like an archway, but you don't have to do yours like this. And my trees ended up looking really similar to each other, but you can make two totally different trees as well, so you don't have to do it just like mine. Also, if you don't want to do two trees, you could put like a house or some other, or you could put an animal. Or if you really wanted to go Lion King with this, you could draw some little lion silhouettes or animal silhouettes. Whatever you like. Personalize it, make it your own. So a little tip about making trees. When you're adding branches to your trees, you always want to try to make the branches look like they flow out of the main trunk. So avoid drawing really straight lines and avoid having them stick out straight out, like horizontally out from your tree trunk or your bigger branches. You want to try to get them to flow out almost like a Y shape, I guess, as much as possible. And again, just practice that. And you want to try to make your branches more as like crooked and bumpy, if that makes sense, as possible. So avoid really straight lines. The more like organic looking lines you can make, or the more curvy lines look more natural and tree branchy, I guess. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but hopefully it makes sense. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is add just kind of a grayish mist down towards the bottom, and this is just going to help separate the foreground from this middle ground area and help give it a little contrast. So I'm mixing just into the bottom this gray, using a little bit of that gray in my dirty brush, and mixing some white, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue. We're doing almost like a greenish teal, but still very gray color. And you're gonna wanna take most of the paint off your brush. We're gonna do like almost like a dry brushing. So wipe the bulk of that paint off onto your paper towel, and then you may have to re-wet your brush a little, and then just use that very light, watery paint. And you can even smudge it with a paper towel if it comes out too thick to make it look nice and wispy. So you're going for like a transparent, misty look. You don't really have to do this part if you don't like it, but I mean, I think it helps break up, because we're gonna do black silhouettes in the foreground, and this will help separate them even more because our middle ground is pretty dark. So I think it's a nice way to give it some distance and some depth and a little bit of pop of color before we do our silhouettes. And again, it helps separate the two layers. So this next part, I totally didn't realize my camera wasn't filming, but I just added some vines, and I'm using just plain black paint now. And you could do whatever shape you want. You could put some leaves or a tree branch up here, but these are just foreground elements. And again, it's just plain black. And I basically just did curved lines and looped more curved lines and put like these little scribbles to make it look like vines, like a jungly vine look, up in that top corner. So hopefully you guys can just see it and kind of get the idea of what that shape is. And I'm gonna continue using just plain black. And again, I'm using a smaller brush, but whatever size brush feels comfortable. And you could put whatever plant life that you like. So I'm just filling in like large Like these could be blades of grass, maybe they're big palm leaves from like big tropical plants, or you know, whatever kind of plant life. You can make them flowers if you want, just something to fill in. And I'm just gonna do this on the corners almost to create like a nice border, so it's like we're looking in through the foliage at our scene. And again, these are pretty simple shapes. And on the other side, I'm going to add more plants, but I'll change up the shape a little, maybe do some different style plants with some different style leaves. Again, you can practice these kind of shapes if you're nervous about drawing. You can also look up different plants as reference for different types of leaf shapes. I'm just kind of going with like some generic tropical big leaves. And again, I'm just kind of doing these down in the bottom corners to create like a nice frame around the painting. A little tip about doing leaves as well, and this is kind of goes for the tree branches too. When you have like leaves branching out on either side of a stem, or tree branches branching out on either side of a trunk, you want to try to keep them asymmetrical. That just looks a little bit more natural. If you look really closely at leaves, even like fern leaves where there's like petal or leaves growing on each side of a stem, they don't always come out like symmetrically on either side. Like a lot of times they're just slightly off, like one's slightly higher and one's slightly lower. And it's not a big deal. I mean, you don't have to do it, but it is something that will make it just slightly more natural looking if you kind of offset them a little bit. And you don't have to do all of them offset, but you know, just the more random things are, the more natural they look, because things are pretty random in nature. Just scribble in some random blades of grass or leaves to fill in any awkward empty spots that you don't like. Next, I'm going to add some palm trees. So I'm just starting with a long thin line coming up, and I'm just having these go a little taller than my background trees, and you can place them wherever you want. I usually start with kind of like a little, I guess it's like a firework shape at the top of my trunk. I don't know, just some lines to mark where you want your leaves to come out. And the way I do my palm tree leaves, especially for silhouettes, I'm just gonna scribble along each side of the lines, and anywhere where there's a lot of space or empty space, I'll just add more jagged little scribbly lines sticking out to fill in my palm tree. So hopefully you guys can kind of see the way I'm just scribbling in my palm tree leaves. You don't have to worry about them being absolutely perfect. When you're seeing a palm tree silhouette, it's just gonna look like a big fluffy pom-pom shape anyway, so you don't have to worry about every individual branch or leaf looking perfect. They're kind of just blobby shapes, but you just want to make sure that the outside has that spiky look, and then you'll know it's supposed to be a palm tree. You can also start really small with your leaves, and then that way, like if you feel like you mess up, you can just kind of bring them out, make them a little bigger if you need to. But yeah, that's a palm tree. And I'm just gonna do another one, and I didn't show, I do have at the bottom the palms kind of cross a little, but you can have them come out wherever you like. But I'm gonna do a second palm tree the exact same way I did the first one. And you could do as many or as few of these little palm trees as you like. And again, just kind of a scribbly little technique. I used the very edge of my brush to get a sharp line, so I get those nice sharp pointy jagged edges. I do use a flat brush for mine, but if you feel more comfortable using a round or pointed brush to get thin pointy lines, you can totally do that. It's really just preference. And of course you can add any other type of foliage that you want to your painting, but yeah, that's it. That's the painting. So there you go. Well, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this painting tutorial, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with all of your friends, especially anybody who is bored and needs something to do. And if you have ideas for what I should paint next, please put them down in the comments below. I do have a few ideas for some autumn themed paintings and spooky season paintings, so look out for that. And I've been thinking about some other types of arts, crafts types things to put on the channel, so who knows, maybe we'll see some of that as well. And if you've painted along with any of my videos, please share your artwork. I know some of you guys have, and it's beautiful and I love it. And ooh, and who knows, maybe you'll see some of your artwork in future videos. I might not leave it in there because it might be a surprise. Thank you from me and Bella, and we'll see you guys in the next video.